Welcome to the Fantasy League Coverage Network, presented to you by the fellas over at the Eye Test Network. I am your host, Mark Coles, and I am here with my co-host, Shawn Williams. Tonight's coverage will begin with the 2021 Fantasy Football Draft of the Trash Player League. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get into it.
It's the Trash Player League. Let's get it.
Surprise thing that happened in this draft was Rodney, the returning champion, did not show up for the beginning of the draft. It seems as though he was on CPT time, Shawn.
Yeah, definitely some CPT shit. Look, man, if I won and then I get to pick my spot in the draft, I feel like I'm a damn sure be there for that, you know?
Yeah.
And you know what? We when the picks show up, let's see what he does with this auto pick in the first round.
Yes, let's see indeed. So the first two picks are in. Troy rather, he made the obvious choice of Christian McCaffrey, and the second choice by Charles was Dalvin Cook. Shawn, was there any surprises there to you with the first two picks?
I'm slightly surprised. Not too much. This is par for the course for pretty much every league. But, you know, in this league in particular, there's a lot of people that love Derrick Henry. So slightly surprised that he didn't go first or second. But it ain't too surprising, man. These guys are going to go out there. They're going to get you the yards on the ground. They're going to see 25 carries, plus they're going to get their 10 targets a game. It seems like a no-brainer here for this situation. They're the only, to me, they're the only bell cow backs that see the high volume of targets that they do, along with the high number of carries. Zeke used to be in that department, but last year and the year before has shown him slowing down. So, yep, you got Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was a little surprised that Derrick Henry wasn't number two, but I understand the philosophy, because if Dalvin Cook remains healthy, he's a likely candidate to get the same amount of yards as Derrick Henry, are relatively in that range, but also be heavily involved in the passing game. And this being a PPR league, Dalvin Cook would have more value than Derrick Henry in the PPR league. So,
yeah.
So with that, the third pick is in, and a surprise move, it was Ezekiel Elliott. Now, just a little bit of his little inside information for those that are watching. Like we said, Rodney did not show up, so went straight to auto pick for his first pick. And Zeke is number 3 on the top 250 list, or the list for Yahoo Sports. So if you're not familiar, then once it goes to auto pick, it's just going to pick the best available. It's not going to go off of any sort of preference unless you set it up to do that. And he obviously did not do that, and so it picked Zeke. And like I said, this being PPR, Zeke is currently ranked higher than Derrick Henry, because Zeke is one that will catch the ball out of the backfield. And his ADP ranking has risen since, the arrival of Hard Knocks, and seeing his slim down weight and everything like that. It seems people think that he's taking this season a little bit more seriously. Shawn?
Yeah, so with this one, it's still interesting. To me, I'm not sure if I like him over Derrick Henry. The the two reasons for me is, number one, Derrick Henry is going to get the touchdowns. Like,
Right.
I think Derrick Henry's floor is probably 12 or 13 touchdowns. Like, that's his floor, okay? So that's what I'm looking at. And Zeke, with Mike McCarthy coaching the Cowboys right now, it's a whole lot of passing, Mark. Whole lot of passing. Not a whole lot of goal line run plays. Zeke had his lowest total for touchdowns last year. And he had his lowest total for touches last year as well. So, and for somebody that can catch out of the backfield the way that he can, or the way that he's shown that he can since he's been in the league, it was a surprise to me that they just haven't been going to him out of the backfield over the last 2 seasons. So that's one season with McCarthy and one season before McCarthy got there. So I just feel like there's been an emphasis on passing to the wide receivers, and now that they have all these weapons in the wide receiver corps, Mark, I just don't see how they decide to get Zeke involved in the passing game outside of a pass blocker at this point. If you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, all these guys are showing out and making their catches. They have Schultz, who's not even the first string tight end, who ended up being the first string tight end after injuries to Jarwin last year. He showed out. He looks like a guy that he might not be able to block, but he sure as hell can catch a ball. So I don't know, man. There's too many weapons out there, and I just don't see how Zeke is going to get touchdowns or how he's going to get the touches on the ground with a team like Dallas, especially seeing as though their defense is going to have them playing from behind a lot. So unless somebody believes that their defense is better this year, I just think that I would take Derrick Henry over Zeke. But all in all, not a bad pick. But if I had won the championship and this is the spot that I wanted to pick at, I would imagine that he wasn't looking at Zeke.
I would imagine so neither. But hey, man, when you on CP time, it is what it is. You also this is the type of stuff that gets you in late registration, and now you in basket weaving. That's what happened here.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a nice reference though. I'm saying though, like you're not gonna get your choice, you know. That's the way it works. So
pretty much. So Darius at pick number 4 was served a layup to Derrick Henry. I'm pretty sure he was excited about that. Fuck him though. But anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy how it just like it's almost like this shit was perfectly aligned for Roddy to miss his pick and then Derrick Henry to fall to Darius, man. That boy, maybe this is destiny for Darius this year. I don't know.
Hey, destiny for him to just fall in the end. That's all. Doesn't matter. Oh, excuse me. Wrong episode for that. I'll remain unbiased for the time being.
All right, well, come on, let's go.
All right, so moving right along, going into the 5th pick. So here, and look at that. We have a surprise pick at number 5. So at number 5, we had Patrick Mahomes. Sharice Williams picks Patrick Mahomes at pick number 5. Just for you guys out there, this move was, I think it was a little short-sighted, in my opinion. This pick left a lot of quality running backs on the floor in a PPR league. You're going to have quarterbacks that can put up similar numbers to Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it. Lamar Jackson has done it. Kyler Murray has done it. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP.
Man, Josh Allen did it last year.
Yeah. Like we've seen it. I understand the value that Patrick Mahomes brings to a team, but we've seen it that there are quarterbacks that will give you that. And there's not a lot of running backs that will. And the fact of the matter is she left Alvin Kamara out there and Aaron Jones out there. these guys, these are the top crop. And there's a few more guys that are out there, but the obvious choice here should have been Alvin Kamara, in my opinion. But this is the choice that Charisse has made, and we'll see how it works out for her on the season, and we'll see how it works out for her in this draft. Shawn, your thoughts?
Yeah, so the Patrick Mahomes one is an interesting one. I know she mentioned to me that her four players in the queue were no longer there. She thought it was an error, and I was like, no, they're probably gone.
Why would you have those 4 players? Like, so the 4 player, like, there's no reason you would have those 4 players in the queue. Like,
you could have just set your shit to auto if they was gonna, like, to be honest. I mean, but having them in the queue at the spot 5 was probably not. I don't know what you were hoping for with that, but it doesn't matter. The point is, she didn't have a backup plan, Mark. When you don't have a backup plan, things like this tend to happen. You know what I'm saying? She didn't know what other running back. She thought she was going to get one of these guys, so she didn't think to have a backup plan in case she didn't. She didn't know who was going to be on that level. She didn't do her research, and she went with the obvious pick and said, you know what, Patrick Mahomes is pretty good. I'm going to take him. This is one that is really going to. It weighs heavily. Like you said, we mentioned it before, we're going to mention it again. There's not a lot of running backs. Once you get out of the top tier of running backs, it drops off dramatically with production, with fantasy production. Because of timeshares, because of game planning and all that stuff. It seems like everybody is in the timeshare this year. So, yeah. Or there's just situations where they just decided, hey, we're not going to name who the lead back is. You know what I'm saying? So yes, this is definitely a pick that is, I'm not even going to say it's ballsy. I just don't think it's smart, Mark.
Yeah.
At 5, you could have done better.
I feel like, I mean, it's hard to really get mad at anyone that drives Patrick Mahomes, but at the end of the day, like, it's just,
you're putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, you definitely are. And if you ask Tobias, it didn't work out very well for him last year. So
yeah. He can win you a game. He can win you some games. But he's also going to need production from the other positions to make that happen.
Now, I will say this though. Now, if she did intend on having Patrick Mahomes, this, in my prediction,
the only way.
This is the only way that it would have happened, because he would not have gone in the first round, but he would have gone in the second round before her pick, I believe, because I do believe that Tobias would have taken him in the second round had he been there.
Yeah, he most definitely would have. I think there's no question about that.
All right, so back to the draft. I'm mad at the pick of Najee Harris by Ricky. At all. He stated that this is the guy that he was going to go for. I will say this about Ricky's pick before we move on. He wasn't going to be there on a turnaround. So this is the same situation as Charisse, that if you wanted him, get him now. So
yeah, it's weird. It's like sometimes this is a 12-teamer. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just have to go get your guy.
Right.
Because if you really believe in them and that's really your guy that you want, you just got to go get him. Because the problem here is, in a 12-teamer, you cannot ever really expect things to be back around, be there when the snake comes back around. And one of those reasons is you get people that take their guy early, or you get guys that pick out of order to compensate for having a late pick. So, I mean, that's the way it goes in the 12-teamer. You cannot expect guys like that to be there.
Now, the only issue with Najee Harris is that everything about him is expected production. There is no evidence of what he has already done, because this is his first year in the league. But everybody does know that the Steelers are a running team, and they are very committed to the run, and they are very committed to a single back system.
Yes.
So even though he is unproven, this is a pretty safe pick.
Yeah, he's not getting subbed out for somebody to come in and catch the ball. It's not happening. You know what I mean? So, at the very least, you have a bell cow running back.
Okay. And all right. So moving on, Alvin Kamara goes pick number 7. BK, or Benny rather, he was on auto. So the computer made that pick for him. And now, next up at pick number 8, I could tell you what was going on here. Because this pick is seeming to take a little bit longer than it should, but the only reason was I wasn't quite sure if I really wanted to take Davante Adams. I was looking at the landscape of who was coming behind me, and I was trying to figure out if they would take the running backs that I had listed for my queue coming up next. And so as long as I had two running backs in my queue, and I was like, okay, one of them should be there on the comeback. So I felt comfortable taking Davante Adams in this situation at this point. But had Najee Harris been there, that would have been my selection.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next up, Shawn, is your pick. And it seems like my first pick seemed to have fucked you up because we're down to a minute and you have not made your pick yet.
Oh, yeah, because let me tell you what was going through my mind. I definitely was looking for Davante Adams, Mark. And the issue here was, let me tell you something about Davante Adams. I'm looking at his stats from last year. He had 115 receptions, 18 touchdowns, 1,374 yards, and he didn't even play a full season, Mark. He didn't even play a full season, okay? When Aaron Rodgers locks in on a guy, he locks in on a guy. They're going to be in the top 5 to top 3 stat-wise at wide receivers. That's just the way it works with Aaron Rodgers. So seeing his production in a partial season, I don't know how many games he missed. It wasn't a lot, but he missed games, and he still ended up with 18 touchdowns, okay? So, yes, Davante Adams was my first pick that I was going to take. And, because I feel like the gap between Davante Adams and the second tier of wide receivers was bigger than the gap between Aaron Jones and the second tier of running backs. And that's just the way I had it calculated. Then Mark took Davante Adams, and then I had to say, you know what? Do I take Aaron Jones or do I take another receiver, which I believe has a big gap between him and the second tier? So I chose to take the second receiver. It was a little bit more difficult of a choice, but I would have immediately taken Davante Adams if he was there. It took me a little bit more time to think about the Tyreek Hill situation, because I have seen Tyreek Hill be spotty, and that's something. And that was the difficulty in my decision. But when I really looked at it, I said, you know what, Aaron Jones, I like him. He's good. I just don't know if the touchdowns are going to be there. I know the touchdowns are going to be there for Tyreek Hill. That was the deciding factor. If I knew that they would try to run the ball in a little bit more, or maybe throw to a running back in a red zone, then this would have been a no-brainer. I would have taken Aaron Jones. But that was what was going through my mind, Mark, in that minute, trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do since you took my guy. So,
yeah.
Well, whatever your plan worked, because you definitely took who I wanted. So.
No, thank you. And we're moving on. Next up was Tobias, and honestly, I think this was probably the best choice. Choice of who was available, because Aaron Jones, I would say Austin Eckler possibly could have been a better choice, simply because we do know that they throw to running backs more, a lot more, and we know Austin Eckler will be heavily involved in that. And the fact of the matter is that the Chargers' new offensive coordinator came over from New Orleans, and we've seen what he has done with Alvin Kamara already. But like I said, Aaron Jones seems to be the safe pick here because Austin Eckler has an injury history that is greater than Aaron Jones's. So you want to go with the safer guy, that you expect not to get hurt as often. So any thoughts on that?
Yes. So the one thing this is what I'm going to bring up. That pick, taking Aaron Jones, I think he was the easy choice. It was in between him and Nick Chubb. I think there's a gap between Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones, and then I think there's a gap between Nick Chubb and Austin Eckler. So those were guys, unless you're going to jump out the window for a Saquon Barkley, who, once again, the injury history is there, then I feel like that was the safest choice, was taking Aaron Jones.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And next up, we have Cedric, and Cedric, with his first pick, takes Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is an excellent pick. He is in a timeshare, but when it comes to the running game portion of Cleveland offense, it's Nick Chubb. And we've seen it. This is a timeshare where both people can get damn near 1,000 yards together.
Yes.
So we know this is a timeshare that works. Any further thoughts on that?
Just to be more specific, this is a timeshare where I've seen multiple games where both running backs got 20 plus touches. The only thing that I'm concerned about with this, mildly concerned about with this timeshare, is the timeshare did not work to where both got 20 touches whenever Odell Beckham was in a lineup, because of them trying to force feed him. So we'll see if the Browns' game plan changes with Odell Beckham Jr. coming back, because with him out of there, they said, somebody brought up the stat the other day, said, what's his name, Baker Mayfield, had he only had like 3 games where he threw for 300 yards or more. So, and that's because they ran the hell out of the ball. So yeah, but that's also, like I said, without Odell. So Odell's the only thing that could throw a wrench in that plan. But outside of that, I think it's a very solid timeshare. If you like, some guys ain't in the timeshare and don't get 20 plus touches. So
okay, a few picks have went in. I let it play out to go to back around to Tobias. So 4 picks went in. Now from that pick, we went to Coach at pick number 12, and at pick number 12, Austin Eckler was slightly surprising to me. Given his injury history, I expected people to be a little bit more down on him than him going in the first round. And I got to be honest, that was my target for the second round. He was my original target for the second round, was Austin Eckler. Shawn? Yeah,
so 2 things. With Austin Eckler, the Austin Eckler thing might seem a little weird, but really, because of my pick because of both of our picks, you took Devontae Adams, I took Tyreek Hill. There's only one other, guy that's going to give you the big boom, and that's DK Metcalf, right? People don't like the inconsistency that Russell Wilson plays with. People don't like the inconsistency of the Seattle offense, where one day they want to be a passing team and another day they want to be a running team. So I understand that it's really sporadic with DK, and I understand if you don't want to take him. I feel like if Tyreek Hill was there or Devontae Adams was there, that's who he would have taken. But because those 2 names were gone, he was forced. His hand was forced. He wanted a running back, and out of the running backs left, it's him and Saquon that are going to be out there catching balls. But Mark, what I noticed last year with the Chargers, which made me stay away from Austin Eckler, was he came back. He had some issues after his injury with gaining yards on the ground. He was not as good on the ground as he was in the past before his injury. And even though the offense catered to throwing to the running back, it seemed as though Justin Herbert preferred the wide receivers. So I don't know how the offensive coordinator change is going to work, and I don't know if that means it's going to be the old Austin Eckler that you're expecting, to get the 12 targets a game. But I can tell you this, usually when a quarterback has his targets, those are his targets. It don't matter how good of a running back they have in the backfield that can catch. If the quarterback likes throwing to the tight ends or likes throwing to the wide receivers, that's just what it is. And that's what I'm trusting with the Austin Eckler situation.
Okay.
We shall see how that turns out.
Yeah, we definitely shall see. I guess my only question would be that you don't think that him having trouble gaining yards on the ground had anything to do with him still recovering from the injury. Do you not expect it to be
I think that's part of it, but I think the other part of it, Mark, was I just wasn't impressed with the offensive line.
Okay.
Understood. So I mean, if you look at Justin Herbert's highlights, he has a lot of them where he's scrambling and throwing from outside the pocket because of that.
Understood. Moving on. In round 2, Coach had the back-to-back pick because he had pick number 12. And this right here seems to be a bit of a homer pick, CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, man, we calling it a homer pick? You think CeeDee Lamb went too early?
Yes, he did.
Oh, man.
He did. No, now, don't get me wrong. I wholeheartly believe that CeeDee Lamb is a tremendous talent. And I wholeheartedly believe that there's room for him in this offense and that he's going to do great things. But my question is, will he be force-fed targets like a DeAndre Hopkins?
No, he won't.
And that's a person that was available out there. Is he proven like a Calvin Ridley? Because we haven't seen it yet.
And I mentioned DK Metcalf. I would take DK over a CeeDee.
Yes, and DK Metcalf was force-fed targets as well last year. So, so these are the reasons why I say this was a homer pick because there are guys that are proven and that will give you whatever you expect from CeeDee Lamb. You've already seen it from somebody else that is still on this board.
So you're saying they're safer picks. Okay, but this is what I will say. I don't know why anybody would expect the type of production that they had from last year. I said it once before, I'll say it again. Dak was on pace for 6,700 yards passing. Mm-hmm. I didn't think he could keep up that pace, but he kept it for like 4 or 5 games. But I think people are looking at that level of production overall, and I don't think they realize how ridiculous those numbers were. Every single receiver, well, not every single receiver on the Cowboys is going to see a drop. Somebody has to, Mark, unless Dak plans on being on his 6,700-yard pace again. The amount of touchdowns thrown will be lowered as well. Everybody ate last year, Mark, and I think this is a year where not everybody's going to eat on the Cowboys. So I understand if you're expecting last year's production, then CeeDee Lamb was on pace to end the season with like 1,200 yards and like 10 touchdowns. So it doesn't sound like a bad pick right there, but I just don't see the Cowboys coming out and having to. There's no way their defense could be as bad as it was last year. They did some drafting.
Are you sure?
They did some drafting. They made moves, Mark. They made moves to fix the problems. Okay, that's one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. It's not possible, Mark.
Listen, there's always the old adage that has been true for at least the last 25 years, which is, at the end of the day, it's still Dallas.
Look, man, I'm not rolling with that. But once again, CeeDee Lamb, I guess you could call it a homer pick. I think he just believes in his guys and he believes in his team, and this is the way that he shows it, Mark.
Yeah, obviously he believes in his guys, but do you believe in him on more than somebody like Stephon Diggs, who was still available?
Look, that's none of my business, but I appreciate him not taking them, though.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying, It is what it is.
All right.
But moving on, Cedric goes back to back with the running back. Here he takes Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, who had a great year last year, and with the Colts. I wonder if we should expect the same production though, because Marlon Mack is healthy, and now you quote unquote have a real quarterback. So now that you have a real quarterback,
quote unquote, that's fair. That's fair, by the way. But go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? Like now that you have a real quarterback, there should be more focus in the passing game. So that should take something away as far as opportunities from the running back. But either way, it's not a bad pick here. I'm just speaking to concerns that if I had any, for Jonathan Taylor. Well,
this is what I'll say. I do have concerns for Jonathan Taylor. Marlon Mack's coming back. Nyheim Hines seemed to be a big part of the passing game. They did not like passing the ball to Jonathan Taylor. That's a knock on it. He got a lot of touchdowns. They fed him in the red zone, but I also think they were protecting the ball because Phillip Rivers was throwing a lot of picks and losing the games early on. So I don't know. Like, Frank Reich has his guy. I don't think he's going to strap down the offense like he did last year. So you add that into it, and then you say Marlon Mack is coming back. This shit has the committee of all committees written all over it, Mark. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, when Marlon Mack was gone, they still found a way to play 3 to 4 running backs, with Jonathan Taylor being who they drafted to take over. It's just weird. I don't know what Frank Reich's doing. He seems like a guy that likes to spread the ball around, and I don't foresee anything less than you're going to be looking at these box scores and you're going to see 8 different receivers and you're going to see 4 different running backs. It ain't enough for him to eat, Mark. It's going to be more of a committee than what he thought it was.
Yeah, definitely. That is definitely a fair statement. Okay, next up is Tobias, and he also went back-to-back running back, and this pick was Saquon Barkley. Me personally, because Saquon Barkley has yet, like, the reports are out there that he's not healthy. He's slowly coming back. He's not. And also the reports, just because I follow, the Giants are a fucking mess, man. I wouldn't have drafted a single fucking Giant this year. Your coach is calling the cops on his own players. So,
the Giants always got some bullshit going on, don't they?
Yeah, yo, who wants to play for a guy? Who wants to play for a snitch? You snitching on your own men. Doug, what's happening?
Yeah, you know what? This is all I gotta say about the Saquon Barkley pick. If it pans out, it's a good pick. It's a good spot. I like it. If it pans out, I don't like it because there's so many question marks, Mark. And here's the thing that I gotta say. August 26th, Saquon Barkley took 8 live reps on Thursday. His first
yes.
Since tearing his ACL. That was last week, Mark.
Yes.
That wasn't even a full week ago, Mark. That was Thursday last week. This man is not ready to play. Okay? That's bottom line. So you drafted Saquon he's obviously hoping, he has to be hoping, hey, maybe by week 3 he's up and running. Maybe by week 4, maybe he's hoping that, hey, once he gets up and running, he's going to be a stud. But with that said, Mark, that means you probably should have waited to the 3rd round to take him.
Exactly.
Here's where you could have taken a for sure wide receiver.
Well, I mean, this is me just trying to enter the mind of Tobias, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but I would imagine that this pick here would be the pick where he would have took J.K. Dobbins. Had had J.K. Dobbins not had a season-ending injury just the day before.
Oh, this definitely would have been J.K. Dobbins territory.
Or well, it would have been J.K. or Patrick Mahomes. So his two picks that he would have been looking at, they both were gone, and so I think he just went with what was best available on the list. And Saquon's talent, seeing him fall to the second round, it gets kind of hard to ignore once you see him in the second round.
Hey, I would have walked right past that motherfucker, but that's just me. Maybe it's hard for some people, Mark, but for me, he would have still been there. If he would have been around, I don't know, round 5, maybe I would have taken a look at him. But that's just, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many more guaranteed hits out there that I wouldn't take a flyer, which what I would call a flyer. I don't do early round flyers, you know what I mean?
Understood.
Yeah.
So
9 to 12 team league.
Right.
Okay.
Now back to the draft. All right. So now, Shawn, is back to you.
Oh, snap. Forgot about that. Yep.
So now your pick is up. And it seemed like, what were you thinking here? Like, a lot of your picks seem to have taken a while. Like, right here at round 2, what were you thinking?
I almost took Calvin Ridley, and I said, you know what? Let me go with Stephon Diggs. I do feel like the Buffalo Bills are going to regress a little bit, but not to the point to where Stephon Diggs doesn't eat, Mark.
Okay.
That's just where he's the one guy on that team that is going to eat regardless. And that's the way I saw it. So Calvin Ridley looked good. DK seemed good, but like I said, he's spotty.
Yeah, understood. Now, moving on, but I have a question for you while we move on. I took Antonio Gibson. What was it about Antonio Gibson that scared you off, or did you just say Stephon Diggs is definitely going to give me a lot of points?
I'll be honest with you. It's the quarterback situation is different. The quarterback situation is different, and Antonio Gibson doesn't catch out of the backfield. And I felt like for round 2, knowing that if I skip out, like let me put it this way: I take Antonio Gibson now, and I have Tyreek Hill and Antonio Gibson. I'm not gonna find another top tier wide receiver. Like I said, there was only 3 guys that I had my eyes on at that point, and those 3 guys would have been gone. And I told you before we started talking here, the wide receiver situations were kind of muddy, and I didn't like that. It was about to get into muddy waters for the wide receivers. It was already getting to the muddy waters with the running backs, but I personally felt like with today's league and the way that things go now, you have a better chance. Like, I'm going to get more touchdowns out of Stephon Diggs than I am Antonio Gibson. Once again, I felt like the gap between Stephon Diggs and everybody else that was going to be available to me in 3rd round was bigger than the gap between Antonio Gibson and the running backs. That's just, I go by the gap. I mean, you took the best running back available in my mind, like,
right,
you know, outside of one other player, but we're going to get to that name soon.
Who would you have taken there, or who you think is better there?
Oh, no, I think somebody is in the same realm as him. And I was going to say James Robinson, considering the injury situation. But even with that said, that's a temporary.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, but yes. But either way, I did not want to touch the Jaguars situation. Definitely not round 2. I'm not taking those guys. I'm not taking James Robinson.
Nobody's taking James Robinson in round 2.
Yeah, so yeah.
All right.
Best available. Sometimes you just got to go best available, Mark.
Yes.
All right.
So moving on, Benny takes Travis Kelce. Again, he's on auto, so Travis Kelce, it being the best available in the according to the rankings, that was an automatic pick. So there's no real judgment to be made there because it's auto. Thankless task.
That did upset me, Mark, because that was going to be my next pick, to be honest with you.
I don't think
I expected him to still be there, but
I don't think he. I think that was a fool's errand. I don't think he would have made it to round 3, pick 9. I don't think so.
The only reason why I say that is because a lot of people took 2 running backs. I was expecting everybody to snake back and catch wide receivers.
Well, but when you get in Travis Kelce, you might as well be getting a wide receiver.
True. But come on, Mark. I was hoping.
Yeah.
All right. So you said Kelce got taken.
Yeah. At least you got him.
That's definitely a decent auto pick right there.
Yeah.
So
then now Ricky is up next. Calvin Ridley came up next. Again, he said he was auto picking. I don't know if this was a player that was in his queue for auto pick if he was available. But he takes Calvin Ridley now that there's no Julio Jones. This is a good pick in the second round. I don't have any issues with the placement of the pick or the pick itself. So I don't have anything to say.
Calvin Ridley, once again, he was in that class for me when it came down to Stephon Diggs, so I do see it's Matt Ryan. He's going to be slinging the rock. And Russell Gage is not, he's barely a number 2. I wouldn't even call him a number 2. Right. He's pretty good for a third option, but he's not a number 2 receiver. And then they have Kyle Pitts on that team. I just foresee 2 guys eating in that offense through the air, and it's going to be those 2 guys. So yes, Calvin Ridley should be a target monster this year.
Yes. And next up is Sharice. The computer auto picked DK Metcalf for her. At least I think it did. DK Metcalf, again, I would say this. Because you came in and took Patrick Mahomes and no running back, like I thought I was like, all right, you really kind of placing yourself behind the 8 ball when you go Patrick Mahomes and still don't go a running back, like so.
But I feel like in her defense, I see like at that point I wouldn't have gone for a running back because, I guess you could have taken Joe Mixon. But at this point, the problem
that's true. That's true.
But this is the problem, Mark. This is the problem that you run into when you take a quarterback within the first 3 rounds. When you take a quarterback with the first 3 rounds,
from there.
You have to give up a position. You're supposed to have 2 wide receivers to start and 2 running backs to start. You're gonna be short. You're not gonna be able to fill those gaps. You have to sacrifice something.
Right.
That's the problem with taking a quarterback that early.
Right, but when you say that, like, yeah, DK Metcalf, I'm definitely taking DK over fucking Joe Mixon. So.
Yeah, it sucks. It's not what you want to do. You want a running back, but that's not it. Like,
right, like, I would honestly, myself. If you were just going to do this anyway, I probably would have took Darren Waller. But if you're going to go with unbalanced anyway, I would have just went Darren Waller.
Yeah, probably could have. Yeah, because we talk about those gaps. Like I said, that I like the gap between Darren Waller and all the other tight ends in the league is pretty large.
Yeah. So next was Darius. With DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins being a massive target monster. Good pick. He went running back, wide receiver. You have any words?
No, so far his picks look great. You got Derrick Henry and you got DeAndre Hopkins. Like DeAndre Hopkins falling to you at that point, he probably wouldn't even expected him to be there. So there we go. He got DeAndre Hopkins. I don't like what happens with him in this Arizona offense, where some games he doesn't show up, or you're watching to the fourth quarter and the man has 3 catches, and you're just praying that that Kyler Murray decides to throw the ball instead of running himself. Like,
right.
It's a really weird situation. But then there's games where I've seen him get 8 catches in the first half. I don't know. It's very sporadic with him on his team. He seems to be getting less touchdowns here because of Kyler Murray. And that's the reason why, for me, DeAndre Hopkins has fallen below guys like Stephon Diggs and DK Metcalf to me.
Okay.
So, but at that spot, that's a great pick.
Yeah. Joe Mixon goes at pick number 2 for Rodney. Joe Mixon, we've discussed in several others why we have a problem with Joe Mixon. But Rodney kind of came in on the back end. This pick he did actually make. He came, just for those that are watching, he came in right after his team auto-picked Ezekiel Elliott for him.
First, I was going to say, that's an okay-ish spot to take Joe Mixon. But really, when you have Zeke as your first pick, and then, like, you take Joe Mixon there, like, I guess it's okay, but you still had guys like Allen Robinson out there, Justin Jefferson. You already have a running back, so you're not without one. So, I don't know, man, but there you go. You got to make those decisions, and he went with a running back.
Yeah, he did, and so he secured his running backs very early. Moving on, Charles at his second pick, he takes David Montgomery, and David Montgomery, I'm gonna just be honest, I don't expect him to have the same year he had last year.
David Montgomery didn't even have the type of year last year that we wanted him to have. So let's just be real. Like, David Montgomery, he
was a top 5 runner, apparently.
Look, I'm going to spit out, I'm going to get his stats for you, because this is about fantasy. 1,070 yards rushing. 8 rushing touchdowns.
Okay.
2 receiving touchdowns, 54 receptions for 438 yards. That is good. That is not going to be duplicated. And that is why I would not take him right here.
But that's what I was saying.
Like, in the passing game, he's not going to get. I do not think he's going to get those targets in the passing game. It's not good. He's not going to get 68 targets in the passing game again. It's not happening, Mark. So that maybe I'm being. I don't know.
I mean, Tariq Cohen is still there, and he's supposedly healthy this year. But who knows?
I expect Justin Fields to take over at some point. And when that happens, Mark, instead of getting those short passes, you're going to have Justin Fields taking off. It just is what it is, man. Like, when you have a running quarterback, the running back sees less. They see less targets. So I don't know, man. David Montgomery at this point is ridiculous to me, Mark. I wouldn't have taken him for the 7th round.
Wow. Ridiculous.
Maybe I'm being disrespectful. Maybe I'm being disrespectful.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what is ridiculous at this point is Lamar Jackson at 2. Former MVP, and he's definitely going to get his rushing yards, but what makes him ridiculous to go at the bottom of the 2nd round is the fact that he would have been there probably at the bottom of the 4th.
Probably. Maybe. But even if he wasn't, that's something that you can eat that. You can eat that.
Yeah, if he wasn't there, like, you can deal with it. It's okay. Like,
Mark. This is what I'm going to tell you. My problem is because I'm just going to go ahead and mention his next pick, Mark.